Okay, hello, welcome back. So in this video, I will show you how to get started creating your first patch in Max MSP. If you don't have Max, you can go to cycling74.com and download it. So the first thing you'll do is open up Max and launch the program. Max will open up any patches that you were previously working on, and sometimes you'll see a welcome screen. Mine is set to not show that, so if you see it, you can go ahead and take a look or move it to the side. Here I have the Max console open. We're just going to leave that alone for a minute and go up to File and choose Create New Patcher. So a patch or a patcher is the file type that Max uses to create your code in. Some people also call this a canvas. It's kind of a metaphor for art or for drawing, painting, where you will actually create your code on the canvas here. And so I have this blank canvas here, and I'm going to start adding in some objects. So the first thing that I will do to add an object is go up to this top panel, and when I hover over this top button here that says object, so I'll click on that and drag it into my patch. Notice my cursor is flashing, which means now I can type something into it. So I'm typing the word metro. You'll see that it brings up a drop-down box and gives me options for what I can type in. So if we just leave M, I'm getting a bunch of different options of objects that start with the word M. So here's an object, metro, and it says what it's going to do right after the word. Output a bang message at regular intervals. Whoa, okay, we'll get to that, don't worry. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit enter. And you can see now that I have this object that I can move around in my canvas. This object, which has a word in it, is very common. You also have user interface objects, which are also quite common. So I'm going to go back up to my panel here, and I'm going to grab a toggle. Click and drag. And notice this one I can resize, and it has an X in the middle. So a toggle is an on and off switch, and I'm going to also go up and grab a different user interface object right now, which is called a button, and just go ahead and drag that into my patch. So up here, you go ahead and hover over comment, which looks like a little speech bubble. Click and drag that here, and a comment is like a text box embedded into your patch that just allows you to write any notes you wish, which will really help you to remember what your patch does. This is important for you, and if anyone is ever going to be using your patch who didn't create it, it's really important to leave yourself some notes. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. I don't need it. I'm just going to call this a toggle, and I'll call this a button. That's the names of the objects in case you forget. Okay, so you have a toggle, you have a metro, we have a button. And I'm going to connect these objects up. So notice that there are these circles on the object, one at the top and one at the bottom. When I click and I drag out, I have now a patch cord. So this is the way that we connect objects in Max. So I'm going to take my patch cord from my toggle, click and drag, and drop it onto this little circle of the metro. So these circles are called inlets and outlets. Inlets are always on the top of the object, and outlets are always on the bottom. Inlets take information and data in, and outlets spit it back out of the object after it's performed its function. So I'm going to take data from the toggle into the metro, and the data that the toggle is sending out is on or off, just like a light switch. And then metro, I'm going to click and drag and drop into my button. So metro is short for metronome. So a metronome is a machine that puts out beeps at a certain interval. Musicians use this a lot, especially to practice, to get a solid tempo. So now I have a toggle, which is going to turn on my metronome, and I have a button, which is going to display the outputs of the metronome. When I click on this toggle, I can move it around. I can resize it, I can make it smaller. So how will you actually turn on this toggle button? Well, Max has two main functioning modes. One is edit mode, and that's the mode that we have been in thus far. I can grab objects, I can move them around, I can create them, I can edit them, I can add to them. But I can't actually interact with them, which is really important. So the second functioning mode that Max has is called the run mode, or locked. So I'm going to go down to my corner here, and there's a little lock button. When I click on that, it's going to lock the patch. Notice my grid went away, and now when I click on this toggle, it actually turns on. I can't move it around or edit any of these now because I'm in run mode. If I want to go back and edit, then I have to go back and unlock my patch. So now what we'll do is modify how this metro works. Let's double click on the metro and put a space. And notice that this panel comes back up and the top word says arguments. So if you are beginning to programming and you don't know what an argument is, an argument is a value that is going to somehow change how your object operates. So a metronome, you need to be able to tell it how fast to go. So an argument for a metronome might be the speed of the metronome. And in this case, it's true. It says interval number right here. So I'm going to put my interval at 1000 milliseconds. Oops, sorry. So notice when I typed here, I had to put a space and then type the argument in. And then you can hit enter. And now I have Metro 1000. So what this means is that Metro will output a bang or a beep. We haven't talked about bangs yet, we will. Every 1000 milliseconds. So I'm going to go back and lock my patch and turn the toggle back on. And now you notice that the button is flashing every second. So 1000 milliseconds is every second. Before it was flashing very, very quickly. It was the default. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was very fast. So I'll go ahead and turn that toggle off. So this is going to wrap up this video on objects. And in the next video, we'll talk about different data types and another type of object called a message that you can use in your patch.